Friends, today we will do the revision of lesson How Organisms Reproduce. I hope you are doing revision for your board exam and taking the help of this rapid revision series. And if you have any doubt or problem, then you can share your comment and ask any question. Now, first question. What is the importance of DNA copying in reproduction? DNA copying is called DNA replication. DNA replication. In this process, one copy each of replicated DNA will be passed on to the two daughter cells. Each cell formed will have its own cellular apparatus to control the activities of the daughter cell. It maintains the body design and features in different generations of the species. Variations may be introduced during copying of the DNA. This inbuilt tendency for variation during reproduction form the basis of the evolution. When there is the sexual reproduction, then variation takes place, and if there is variation, then the evolution takes place. Why is variation beneficial to the species but not necessary for the individual? Very important question from exam point of view. Variations present in some populations would enable them to survive in case of changing environmental conditions. Variation present in some populations would enable them to survive in case of changing environmental conditions such as global warming. Thus, it is useful for the survival of species over time. How does binary fission differ from the multiple fission? Binary fission and multiple fission. Binary mean two. Parents divide into the two daughter cell. Multiple mean many. Parents divided into the many daughter cell. Binary fission take place during the favorable condition, but multiple fission take place during unfavorable condition. Unfavorable condition mean when the conditions are not suitable. Binary fission, nothing is left with the parent. Multiple fission, residual cytoplasm is left. How will an organism be benefited if it reproduced by the spores? Spores are covered by thick walls that protect them until they come into contact with the another substratum on which they can grow. They are produced in the large number. Can you think of the reasons why more complex organisms cannot give rise to the new individuals through regeneration? Regeneration is not the reproduction. Regeneration is not the reproduction because most organisms would not depend on being cut up. Regeneration means production of the new organism by any part, but it is not possible in the sexually reproduction organism or multicellular organism. It is the part of asexual reproduction. It is not certain that cut up portion will be able to survive and give rise to the new individual. Why is vegetative propagation practiced for growing some types of the plants, or what are the advantages of the vegetative propagation? It is usually a mean of propagating such plants which do not produce viable seeds. The plants which do not have seeds, they are growing by the process of vegetative propagation. It is the rapid method of producing young ones. It helps in retaining useful characters from generation to generation. Why is DNA copying essential part of the process of the reproduction? This is also the important question. DNA copying provides cellular apparatus in the daughter cells. DNA in daughter cell will be able to control the functioning of the daughter cell. DNA copies will retain the traits or characters. How is the process of pollination different from the fertilization? Pollination. Pollination is the transfer of the pollen grain. It is the transfer of the pollen grain from anther to the stigma. But fertilization is the fusion. It is not the transfer, it is the fusion of male and female gamete. Pollination, pollen grain transfer, fertilization, fusion of the gamete. In pollination, an external agent is required like wind, water, animal, human being, etc. But in fertilization, it does not require any external agent. What is the role of seminal vesicle and prostate gland? Seminal vesicle and prostate gland are present in the male reproductive system. Role of the seminal vesicle. These glands secrete viscous secretions which contain fructose and prostaglandins. The fructose is source of energy for sperm and prostaglandins. Glandins stimulate uterine contractions and thus may help the sperm to move towards the female oviduct. Role of the prostate gland. It secretes an alkaline milky fluid that aid in the sperm motility. Motility means movement. It helps in the sperm movement. The fluid contains small amount of the citric acid, some lipid and few enzymes. It also contains bicarbonate ion which give the semen its alkaline pH. What are the changes seen in the girl at the time of the puberty? These changes occur under the influence of the hormone FSH, follicle stimulating hormone. FSH hormone is follicle stimulating hormone and estrogen, and it brings the following change in the girls at the time of puberty. Growth of breast and external genitalia, darkening of the nipple skin, broadening of the pelvis, growth of the pubic and axillary hair, increase in subcutaneous fat, initiation of menstruation and ovulation. How does embryo get nourishment inside the mother body? Embryo gets nourishment through placenta. Placenta is a disc or plate-like structure embedded in the wall of the uterus. It contains villi on the embryo side of the tissue. On the mother side are blood spaces which surround the villi. Placenta serve to bring the fetal and maternal blood close enough to permit exchange of the materials between the two. If a woman is using a copper T, will it help her in protecting sexually transmitted disease? Copper T. Copper T is a device which prevents the pregnancy. Copper T prevents fertilization. It will stop the pregnancy, but the chance of infection persists. Thus, persist means there is the chance of infection. Thus, it will not help her in protecting from the sexually transmitted disease. Next question. Asexual reproduction take place through budding. Why? Asexual reproduction take place through budding in yeast. That is yeast in amoeba, binary fission, in plasmodium, multiple fission. Which of the following is not part of the female reproductive system in human being? Vasa differentia. Vasa deferens is not the part of the female reproductive system. The anther contains the pollen grains. Pollen grain are the male reproductive part. Sepal, carpal, ovules are the female reproductive part. Question. What are the advantages of the sexual reproduction over asexual reproduction? Advantage of the sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction has a dual significance for the species. It results in the multiplication and perpetuations of the species. Perpetuations mean continuation of the species. It results in the multiplication and perpetuation of the species. It contributes to evolution of the species by introducing variation in a population much more rapidly than the asexual reproduction. What are the functions performed by the testes in the human being? Functions of the testes are produced male gamete called the sperm. Sperm is the male gamete that is produced by the testes. Leading cells secrete male sex hormone, namely testosterone, into the blood. Why does menstruation occur? During menstruation, broken down endometrium is passed out as a menstrual flow along with the unfertilized egg and some blood and liquid part. Draw a label diagram of the longitudinal section of the flower. First we will draw the structure of the flower. That upper swollen part, that is called stigma. This narrow part is called style, and this is called ovary, and this is called, all the three are called female reproductive part. And here are the present anther and filament. These are anther, and these anther consist of the pollen grain, and pollen grain are the male part, male reproductive part. This is called the filament. Now these are called the petal. These are the colorful part and help in the pollination. But this male and female reproductive part help in the fertilization. Here are the sepal. These are the green in color and help in the process of photosynthesis. This is the longitudinal section of the flower or LSO flower. Next question. What are different methods of the contraception? Prevention of fusion of the sperm and ovum to prevent the pregnancy. Natural. Avoid the copulation during period of the ovulation. Mechanical method. Use of device to avoid fusion of the sperm and ovum. And examples are condom, diaphragm, cervical cap, IUD. Chemical method. Use of the drugs, hormones, etc. Examples are jelly, tablets, pills, etc. Now the surgical method. In surgical method, removal of the reproductive organ. In the vasectomy, removal of the sperm duct in the male. Vasectomy is done in the male, and tubectomy is the removal of the fallopian tube in the female. By surgical or operation method, this in the male sperm duct is removed, and in the female fallopian tube is removed. These are the three methods: natural, mechanical, chemical, and surgical. Mechanical, chemical, and surgical. In the mechanical, some barriers is used. In the chemical, some drugs is used. And in the surgical, there is the surgery is done in the male and female to stop the pregnancy. Next question. How are mode of reproduction different in unicellular and multicellular organisms? Unicellular organisms mostly reproduced by the asexual method, except for a few such as the paramecium and iamedium. These organisms reproduced by the sexual method also. In multicellular organisms, they have more complex body and body made up of the many cells, and they reproduce normally by the sexual method, but they are also use the asexual method, but sexual method is more common. How does reproduction help in providing stability to population of a species? Reproduction is the process by which organisms increase their populations. The rate of birth and death in a given population determine its size. What could be the reason for adopting contraceptive method? First reason is birth control. Second is sexual act is a very intimate contact of the bodies. Thus many sexually transmitted disease can be passed on using a contraceptive measure such as condom, copperty, loop, etc. prevent transmission of many of these diseases. I hope you are doing practice. Don't miss the chance. Keep doing your practice or revision. Thank you.